I am pleased to announce building alignment for predictive marketing success with a couple of our great partners here. We have Antonio Guzman with Hootsuite and David Singh with Lattice Engines. They'll come up on stage and chat through some of this with us, and then we will have a Q&A session at the end.
Great. Thank you, Regin. Hi, everyone. My name is David Singh. I'm with Lattice Engines. Thank you for coming and joining us. First, I apologize for my voice. I've been in Vegas for 2 of the past 3 weeks, so I'm sure some of you are feeling the same pain that I am. But in 16 hours, I got off the plane in San Francisco. I'm going to take a big, deep breath of that wonderful sea breeze and all those other strange smells from San Francisco, and I should be just fine. So I'm happy to be back here again as a sponsor of Marketo, of the Marketo Summit. This is honestly my favorite week of the year because this is our chance as a vendor to have our customers talk about their experiences with our solution. And today you have a great speaker who's going to share his story with you. You might recall the last year we had a couple great speakers as well. We had Joanna Kwong from FireEye. We had also Dan Amati from MuleSoft. And they talked about how they leveraged predictive analytics with Lattice Engines to streamline their marketing and sales activities within their organizations. Today we have another great innovative marketer. Antonio, my friend Antonio from Hootsuite, is going to tell you his story about how Hootsuite has leveraged predictive analytics to streamline their processes. I'm sure most of you know who Hootsuite is. They are the leaders in social media management. I actually competed against Hootsuite as with another company around 4 years ago. And at the time, I was just completely surprised at how savvy their marketing organization was. So now I'm thrilled that I have a chance to actually partner with them as they utilize our solution for their efforts. So most of you, I think probably maybe 90% of your companies utilize Hootsuite for your social media management. Some of you may not be familiar about who Lattice is. So I want to spend a few minutes talking about Lattice before I pass the ball to Antonio. Whoops, I pressed the wrong one. There we go. So Lattice Engines, we are the pioneers in predictive analytics for marketing and sales. We've been doing this for 9 years. We've worked with over 200 plus companies over that period in time. And we actually apply predictive analytics across the entire revenue funnel. So we have a suite of solutions that apply predictive to both the inbound motion, to the outbound motion, and to your existing customer base. For the inbound motion, we apply predictive analytics to take your incoming leads and identify which ones have the highest probability for conversion, so you can market to them more effectively and MQL them to your sales team quickly. From the outbound perspective, we have a prospect discovery application. That looks at the universe of net new accounts. These are not the hand raisers. These are folks who have not engaged with you previously. And we look at this universe of net new accounts, and we identify which ones are the best fits for your business, and then also who is showing active buyer intent on the open web before they engage with you on your web properties. So you can imagine that is perfect for, right now, the big hurrahs around ABM. We do predictive account-based marketing. We help you identify how to actually target the right accounts for your ABM strategies. And I have a quick little story later on to share with you about how Demandbase actually utilizes us for that. And then our third solution is customer growth. This completes a trifecta. With customer growth, we look at your existing customer base, and we identify who are the best fits for upsell and cross-sell. And with all these solutions, we're not just identifying the leads or the accounts or the customers to focus on. We also push the scores and the predictive insights and talking points into your Marketo and into your Salesforce automation solutions, because operationalization is critical. Now, in the last few years, there have been a bunch of vendors who have jumped into the space. A lot of them pivoted from other areas that they were focusing on. And it's kind of confused the situation. So there are a lot of myths right now about what predictive is. And I want to talk about what the myths of predictive are and then also what the reality is. The myth of predictive, it's not about looking to magic ball and utilizing mumbo-jumbo science to figure out who to focus on. The myth of predictive is not that you could simply go out and build a predictive model with a dozen positive conversion events. No, predictive analytics requires a good amount of wins to train your model on. Predictive marketing and sales, it's not about a one-size-fits-all model and running leads and accounts and customers to the same model. Lead scoring is very different than net new account scoring. Net new account scoring is very different than customer scoring. Lead scoring for North American leads is very different than lead scoring for your EMEA or APAC leads. So it's very important to have the right level of granularity within your models. Another myth is that all you need to do is pass a score into your Marketo or your Salesforce, and that's enough. That's a complete myth. Without the proper insights, without the proper supporting information, the supporting context, you can't market to these leads or accounts or customers properly. And also your sales reps won't have the proper insights to have contextual conversations with their opportunities. Another myth is that you could operationalize predictive in a day. All successful predictive analytics customers will agree that that is definitely not the case. You need to focus on the right approach to operationalizing the solution within your marketing and sales activities. So what I want to do today is talk to you about what you need in order to be successful with predictive. And it's quite simple. With predictive, first of all, you need to have the right models in place for your business. There's no one size fits all. You have the right level of granularity for your models. And then you have to focus on operationalizing these models within your workflow, within your process, within your organization from the people perspective. So the reality is, predictive is not easy. It's not hard, but it's not easy. And you need to have the right focus to do this properly. And Antonio, in a few minutes, will talk about how Hootsuite has done this properly, and he'll share some great results about what they've seen with the solution. So at the end of the day, your business is very complex. You have different segments, different geos, different product lines, different lead sources, different opportunity levels. So it's important to have different models for North America versus EMEA, for SMB versus enterprise, for sub $50,000 opportunities versus over $50,000 opportunities. And once you get this right level of granularity, that's when you'll see success with the predictive initiatives in your business. So I'm curious, how many of you are currently utilizing predictive within your organizations? Okay, just a small handful. How many of you are thinking about predictive, in the next 12 months? That's probably why you're here. So Antonio's going to share some great best practices, some great approaches, and he's also going to share some very surprising but expected and normal results of how predictive has impacted Hootsuite. To do it right, you need three things. You first need to, predictive is based on data. You need the right data within your models. So Lattice, what we do is we actually take your Marketo data, we take your Salesforce automation data, but then we match that with thousands of B2B buying signals. These are things like business financials, business firmographics, technology profiles, web profiles, social profiles. Because the predictive model is only as good as the quality of data that goes in there. And keep in mind, we're not simply scraping data from websites. We work with 40 best-of-breed data provider partners, the names you expect. So we combine our Lattice Data Cloud with your historical data. We then apply machine learning to it and create the models with the right level of granularity. So again, different model for different geos, different models for different product lines, for different segments. And then we operationalize this within your Marketo and Salesforce. We pass not just the scores, but we pass the buying signals. We pass the predictive attributes. We even pass talking points, if you want, into your Marketo and Salesforce. You could create very specific campaigns within Marketo, maybe a very specific competitive displacement campaign, because we're telling you it's a great lead, but they're using a competitor. Or a very specific campaign for someone who's a great lead, but they're utilizing a partner solution. So you want to give some complementary nurture campaigns to them. And then from the sales rep's perspective, within Salesforce automation, we provide the insights that a sales rep needs in order to have effective conversations with the sales reps. With their opportunities. And when you do it right, the results are fantastic. Antonio will share his results. We work with anyone from the Fortune 50 all the way down to Series B startups. So a couple weeks ago, Peter Isaacson, CMO of Demandbase, actually talked about how they utilize Lattice to feed in their ABM engines, and how they've actually seen a 75% increase in conversion rates and a 72% increase in average sell price. In a couple weeks, we're going to have Alex Papayou of Intel Security and also Marina of CDW speaking in Nashville about their success with Lattice as well. But what I want to do right now is pass it to my friend Antonio, and Antonio is going to tell you the great story about how Hootsuite has operationalized predictive within their organization, and the results that they have seen. Antonio?
How's everybody doing? Good, good, good. Thank you. When David first invited me to speak about predictive analytics in Vegas, I thought we'd be using these models at the blackjack table to win big. But this is cool too. So my name is Antonio Guzman. Here, let me get settled. I work on the growth strategy team at Hootsuite. The side of the business that I really take care of on the growth strategy team is the enterprise side of the business. And as part of sort of the larger growth and marketing group, work closely with web team, email, automation team, webinars, in-person events, and teams like that, and then really our sales team. We're responsible for a quarterly inbound pipeline and revenue number. And a lot of the reason why we're here is because we're in charge of the infrastructure of our sales enablement and that pipeline and that revenue number, and using technologies like predictive analytics. So that's what we'll be discussing today. Just before we dive in, I didn't really see hands, but how many people are familiar with Hootsuite or use Hootsuite? Okay, it's a good amount. So you probably don't need it, but a quick overview. Hootsuite is the most widely used and trusted platform for managing social media. We help businesses grow by building relationships with customers and staying on top of market trends. And more than 10 million users from around the world use Hootsuite. That includes 800 plus of the Fortune 1000. And those guys really, really trust Hootsuite to manage their social media programs across multiple social networks from one integrated dashboard. Covered this already. So let's get into sort of what brought Hootsuite here at the beginning. Reason number one, our objective, identify high-value prospects in our database. Hootsuite's what's called a freemium model. So we have a free version of our product, and which is freely available, as many of you know. You can sign up today, you can start using it. And we have companies who paid for additional features, for additional seats in the product. And those plans go from $9, $1,000, and way on up. For large organizations, enterprise organizations that have more complex needs or just more employees. But our free users really account for the majority of our user base. And on average, more than half of our paying customers, including our large clients, started as free users. So one of the opportunities for my team is to identify, of this very large user base, who would be a good prospect to upgrade to one of our higher paying plans. So that need to identify high-value prospects within our existing database is really one of the reasons we started to explore predictive and wanted to add it to our bag of tricks, if you will. Reason number two was accelerating our sales funnel. A primary driver for us for accelerating our sales funnel and delivering qualified leads really to our sales team and in less time. So we track funnel velocity at every stage from inquiry to close, and we recognize an opportunity for us to shorten the time it takes for a lead to enter our system, collect enough data to identify them as a qualified prospect for a certain plan type, and then deliver them to the EDRs in sort of a sales-ready state. With predictive analytics, we get a much clearer understanding of customer fit much higher in the funnel, which makes it much more possible to fuel that acceleration. And while the initial goal really was to shorten from inquiry to close, and I believe David mentioned this already, we also have the ability to apply predictive at every stage, and it's something we use for retention, something we can use for upsell, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, but it's also something we want to use for reducing churn. So let's jump in really to kind of the framework for our journey to predictive success, which David mentioned is sort of what we're here to discuss today. So with those two initial goals in mind, we began our search for a predictive analytics solution and really a team who could partner with us. And I realized this morning I've sort of buried this, but I do want to, we are here talking a lot about technology, but the team aspect and who you partner with on a personal level is actually a big piece of seeing that success through. So I've divided our journey into these key stages, beginning with alignment, moving to launch, moving to adoption, success, and innovation. But I do want to say that the overall sort of topic of the session is building alignment. And even though it's here as the first stage, it really fits into each of these stages, and you'll see that. Or I hope you'll see that. So first with alignment. We'll highlight a few areas where we needed to drive alignment really during the initial evolution, or excuse me, the initial evaluation phase of deciding on a predictive analytics vendor. First one, involve your sales team. This is the big one, it really is. I mean, I can't stress it enough. And if you're a demand marketer, like some of you in the room may be, I'm sure like our team, sales is your biggest stakeholder. If sales is unhappy, we're unhappy for the most part. Poor sales and marketing alignment is really prevalent in lots of organizations. I think it was mentioned basically at the beginning of the keynote yesterday. And it's practically a cliche. So for us, involving our sales team and having alignment with our sales team is something we do for every project, every campaign, every program. And for us, this really started at the very outset of this project when we began evaluating vendors. We scheduled learning sessions with our sales development reps to explain to them what predictive analytics are and why we were even considering predictive tools. Because the sales team that we work with, we share collectively pipeline and revenue targets as our KPIs, we walked through the goals of the project. We started the conversation on how predictive could be integrated into their current process, their current workflows, and ultimately, because this is what sales cares about, improving their metrics. So we had our global and North American SDR managers attend vendor demos, and we really involved them in every part of the process up to the short list of 2 vendors. So by the time we chose Lattice, they had been on board, they were established relationships, and they were really excited to help drive adoption to their teams. And also, looking at this morning, I realized that only one person really looks excited. 2 people look confused. But I guarantee everybody was. Next, validate with existing data where possible. This is really key for us. The other component that sort of drove us to this initial question of do we need predictive analytics was a survey we completed in 2014. So our goals for the survey were to understand why our top customers chose Hootsuite. We wanted to understand their customer journey, and we wanted to use those insights to supercharge our acquisition and retention programs. So we engaged an external marketing research firm, and they interviewed the top 20 enterprise clients. They did deep dives with our sales team and our business analysis team. And that research showed us, unsurprisingly, that these top 20 customers, had a lot of similarities. Some of them we already knew. I mean, Hootsuite, as folks in this room who use it know, it aligns well with certain segments, certain customer segments, and certain use cases. But there were some that were more surprising, things that we wouldn't have been able to find out on a lead gen form or even early sales discussions. Just to highlight a few of those attributes, organizations undergoing digital transformation, which can be represented in kind of maturing technology stack, was one of them, for example, and this is somewhat relevant here. Companies who made investments in recent ABM platforms or companies that had made investments in predictive analytics tools. Those were strong prospects for Hootsuite. Recent M&A activity was another one. That was a big factor in similarities we saw across those organizations. And then senior level titles that mapped back to our offering. So words like social, words like digital, and C-level titles or senior level titles. And again, these are just some of the 6,000 inputs that can be identified by Lattice Data Cloud without us needing to ask for it explicitly. So when Lattice built our first model for us, we took that research and we were able to use it to validate and confirm the criteria that we had identified and aligned with our market research. And that validation gave us a really high degree of confidence before launch. And there's one takeaway from me, a little bit of confidence really goes a long way, especially throughout an organization. Third, I might have messed this up. Is that just inching along there? Here we go, let's try this. There we go. So I debated to put this slide in, and I did, and it messed up. But for us, this is a big one. And I thought others in the room might also have sort of strict data requirements. We have 10 million users, more than 10 million users, and a lot of big companies use Hootsuite. So for us, we have to be incredibly conscious of data and data security. And any of the solutions we were going to use, any of the platforms, needed to integrate both with Marketo to provide sort of the predictive attributes and values as new leads were created, but then also with Salesforce in order to build the predictive scoring models based on existing win data. And therefore, they also needed to adhere to our really strict regulations. So we had our security services team perform an audit of Lattice Engine's security architecture. And what they found was that they were the only vendor we were considering with enterprise-grade security protecting customer data. So it got their seal of approval, and that for us is a huge milestone because, again, we're trying to build alignment throughout the organization. And though data security can be an afterthought for some marketing organizations, it was a huge piece for us. So moving to launch, let's talk about what it looked like. After we got buy-in from our sales folks, after we were able to validate our initial model from Lattice Engines, and we formally launched the predictive scoring program. First thing I'd recommend is consider a pilot project. So our team, we're responsible for generating pipeline globally. We have regional SDR teams based in Vancouver, Singapore, and London. But given that we share an office with our North American team, we can more easily get feedback quickly from them and daily as we need. So we decided to run a pilot in North America before rolling out regionally. We wanted to make adjustments with any early indicators of success, and we also wanted to understand any quick issues. For us, really, again, building alignment with regional teams, even though we're based in North America, is handing them a program that's high value right from the onset. So this is a really, really important aspect for us of launching. Second, use your models together. So for the pilot, we chose to run the predictive scoring alongside Marketo's lead scoring program. And we use the predictive scores to really drive acceleration in the primary Marketo model. So we call our highly scored predictive leads PALs or PALs. I'll probably fall between using both those terms, or predictive account leads. So we created new fields in Marketo and Salesforce to show the PAL score alongside the Marketo score. And we use an implicit explicit scoring model where a lead has to reach a defined threshold both for fit and for engagement before they're passed to the SDR team. So we started by giving all of the PALs a maximum fit score, and then also put them in an accelerated engagement track where they only needed 2/3 of the standard engagement score in order to become an MQL and to get passed to the SDR team for qualification. So how was it received? We knew we had the support of the SDR managers in theory, but we still had to prove to them that the platform was delivering value when it was deployed. Ultimately, if they see the value in it, they're going to help drive adoption through their teams. And then for us, we can reach out to other teams and work with them with our, the team that manages acquisition and other programs, so we can drive adoption there as well. So the first part of driving adoption for us was starting slow. And I do think this is going to be maybe organization specific, but to build our model, Lattice evaluated all our enterprise opportunities or wins within the previous year, and we found that 87% of our conversions came from 23% of our leads. So using the attributes from those leads, we scored the entire existing database and implemented a rating system based on the likelihood of conversion over and above our baseline. And that rating system classified our leads into 3 groups. PLAs, and this is where I get a little tongue-tied. PLAs, which meant they had a 97% likelihood of conversion over our baseline. PLBs, which was 87%, and PLCs at 77%. And those tiers of classification really gave us our natural breakpoints for testing quality and testing volume before passing those PALs to the SDR team. Start slow and adjust lead flow. So we started with the PALAs, and we met with our SDR team again. They were close to us. We met with them weekly to review lead quality, conversions, get any feedback from them, and the feedback from the team was great. The leads were high quality, and conversion SQL was on par with our regular scored leads, but at an accelerated pace. So everything was thumbs up, people were smiling, everybody was very happy. So we opened it up to PALBs, and we continued to see strong results. Again, everybody's very happy, and we got over eager, we got ahead of ourselves, and we tried passing the PLCs. Due to the size of our database, we have a large quantity of leads in that category. So we were suddenly flooding the SDR queue and seeing a drop in response times and seeing a drop in conversions. But because we had started slow, we were able to quickly scale back. We changed the rules back to just passing and accelerating the PLAs and just accelerating the PLBs. We saw conversion increase to the previous levels. We deployed the program to our global SDR teams in Singapore and London. Immediately received great feedback from them. So again, what we had anticipated and wanted to do of passing a program that was immediately high value to those regional teams was working. And then we saw a jump in number of qualified leads we were passing. So how many people here actually, well, David already asked this about ABM programs. We sort of had this in here before I got here. And I think ABM can be different things to different organizations, different teams, depending on where they are with their overall business and programs. But we pulled out this kind of quote from Serious Decisions, which is a marketing analyst firm, friends of ours. Account-based marketing is the strategic approach marketers use to support a defined universe of accounts, including strategic accounts and named accounts. It also includes support for the post-sale customer lifecycle, using marketing's toolkit to contribute to the overall customer experience. And at Hootsuite, our ABM programs are broadly split into 3 segments. First, strategic accounts. These are the top 10 prospect accounts by sales rep identified at the beginning of the year to be a primary focus. The second are sales and marketing accounts. It's a much larger list of companies. Those are identified by sales and marketing to be a good fit. And finally, customer accounts with high upsell potential. So to leverage predictive data for these programs, we added our PALAs and our PALBs and our Cs. Even though the Cs were proven to not be ready to be past the EDRs, they're still worthy of additional focus, and we still thought we could add them here to the sales and marketing accounts, and again, use the value of the predictive data that we had in a different program, in our ABM program. And then we built smart lists in Marketo that are used by our paid acquisition team to run these programs. For example, we used LinkedIn Lead Accelerator, Marketo integration, and a few other ABM-focused ones. The lists were also used by our events team. So our events team includes those lists in the first wave of invitations for in-person branded events where we want to get the largest number of highly qualified and high-value prospects. So moving on to success for us. It's great to have alignment. It's great to have everybody on board. It's great to launch a program. But the real question is it successful? And the spoiler alert is that we probably wouldn't be here. Otherwise, this isn't going to be a shoulder shrug of a slide. We don't have actual numbers, obviously, but these are 3 stats I think do a great job of illustrating the impact that our predictive program has had on our business. After launch, it took about a quarter for us to identify the leads in the database, deliver them to the sales team, and have them work their way through the funnel from there. There was some initial pipeline generation early on, but between the second and third quarter after deployment, predictive influence pipeline jumped 10x, and that was huge for us. We also were able to maintain conversion ratios for these leads despite the accelerated engagement scoring track, which also meant that we increased lead to MQL velocity by 30%. And most importantly, depending on who you are, we achieved 4x ROI in the first year, which was, again, huge for us. There was a panel discussion the other day, or yesterday, and a lot of it was about marketing teams, data-driven marketing teams not having the time or the ability to prove their ROI. And so this was huge for us. So all in all, terrific success. Renewing for a second year was a no-brainer and was a given for us. And we celebrate a success, pretty short-lived, and we kind of move on to innovation. 2015 for us was a year getting predictive baked into the process and workflows. We saw fantastic results. This year, there are a few more ways we're exploring predictive insights to drive even more value from the Lattice platform. First is regional models, and David touched a little bit on this, I think, in the beginning. Until now, we've used a single predictive model for all our leads, regardless of region or other criteria. It's not our first model. We actually retrained the model using current customer data in December of last year, mostly because the accuracy of any predictive model will degrade a bit over time, and so you really have to watch conversion. You have to continue to get feedback from your sales team, and when it's time to reevaluate, it's time to retrain the model, you've got to be ready to do that. But now we're taking another step. We're creating regional models. We want to account for unique purchase criteria, unique lead profiles in our major regions: North America, LATAM, APAC, and EMEA. And eventually, as David was speaking to, we want to break this down even further. We want to align with key industries. We want to think more about the products, deal size, and things like that. At the same time, we need enough of volume of data to really make that work. We're also focused on upgrades and cross-sells. The other models we're planning on testing include upsell and cross-sell. We originally deployed Lattice really for our enterprise solution and our enterprise plan type, but now we offer 5 plan types in total, and users are often migrate upwards, right? Their needs evolve, their organizations or businesses mature, and that's another big piece in this coming year for us. We're going to train new models to isolate profiles of customers who have upgraded their plans. We want to find the lookalikes in our database, target them with multi-channel nurture programs, and really promote the next plan that's right for them. We also introduced new products, which was a big one for us, for enterprise users in the last 2 years. We have a more sophisticated social analytics tool. We also have a employee advocacy tool. So the introduction of new products into our business also creates opportunity for innovation in how we use predictive data and predictive insights and the models. And lastly, as part of a growth team, a big part of growth for us is churn reduction. And we're exploring predictive models and how we can use them with our own internal insights, our own internal models actually of user engagement, so that we can drive re-engagement programs. We constantly need to reinforce the value of our solution, and the value of the next sort of plan, the next feature set. So that's really the predictive journey for us with Lattice and Marketo. I hope it's given you some good ideas. I do quickly, just want to run through sort of each element that I spoke to. Again, these are the 5 key stages as we saw them, as we experienced them. Alignment, identifying your goals early, involving your sales team early and often, validating with existing data whenever possible. And again, we've kind of buried it, but complying with internal regulations, especially getting alignment. I think that we've had times where our security team came to us and said, "What are you doing with XYZ?" And it's really kind of puts a pit in your stomach when that happens. So having alignment from them is great. Getting buy-in with the pilot project was a big one for us. I also think this is going to be specific to different organizations or different businesses, but for us, it actually cemented sort of, I think, the way we would do any new sort of technology or new program is to pilot the project first, and use your models together. If you already have a model that's working well, add to it. Find the value in predictive and how you can supplement it, but use your models together. And start slow. Again, we started slow. It was great for us. It helped kind of accelerate the program further down the line because we had started slow. We were able to adjust lead flow when we saw things were going south a bit, and again, made everybody happy that how we had sort of taken that approach with the marketing and sales team, and then incorporate predictive data in other programs that you have. I think that's actually a key one because the further predictive can kind of, I don't want to say infiltrate because it sounds terrible, but infiltrate other parts of the organization, the more value you're going to get out of it. Measure your success. I mean, I think this is kind of a no-brainer, but really, are you meeting your goals? If you're not, refine and optimize. If you are, put the gas on the stuff that's working really well. And lastly, innovation for us. It's about new products. It's about new regions, new programs. And then lastly, get creative. I think this is, again, we know our business really well. David and his team, they know predictive analytics really well. And when you find the right team of people that you can work with. This is where you can get creative. You can see lots of success, and success is good for everybody. So thanks for your time today. I hope you've seen some valuable or heard some valuable insights. I'll be around if you want to get a coffee. I think we also have some time for Q&A. I also have some folks from our email and marketing automation team to kind of keep me honest and help me out. But thanks a lot.
Thank you, Antonio, for that great discussion. So we have some time for some questions. We have 2 microphones set up, so feel free to come over and ask any questions. And also afterwards, we have the Hootsuite team in the front. We have the Lattice team in the black sweaters in the back. But why don't we start over here, sir?
So my question is, I think you said that you guys did your own sort of study on your top 20 accounts and sort of made your own, prediction, and then compared it to the predictive stuff to make sure that it worked, it was good, and help validate it. Is that is like the formula you got from predictive something that you got after you decided to go with them and paid all the money for it, or is that something that I guess you guys will provide so that we can try to validate this stuff and prove to our higher ups that this is actually worth the money that we're considering investing?
Yeah, I mean, the market research we had done was before we had started talking to Lattice, or just before, or really just considering predictive. And to be honest with you, I don't remember the timeline. But the research we had done told us there was a lot. It essentially told us there was a lot about our customers and the people who were choosing us and why they were choosing us and what their profile, why their profile was a high quality lead for us that we weren't going to know. We weren't going to be able to change lead forms, optimize our website, even optimize our nurture programs. And that's what that market research, it turned the light on how little we knew about folks. And again, we are part of the growth team, so we want to use different tools. We want whatever tool is going to help drive that growth as quickly as possible.
And that was a great exercise and almost like a pre-validation that Hootsuite did. Obviously, with the market research company, they're able to do it for 20 identified accounts. Yeah. The great thing about predictive is you can very easily take the same data provider partners, essentially, and run all of your leads, all of your accounts through the engine, and see what attributes are predictive or not. So to answer your initial question, easiest thing that we could do from our side is run a quick proof of concept. We actually take your data. The models are built in less than 2 hours, so we'll show you the results the next day. And we'll show you what's predictive and what's not. And we do that for 2 reasons. First of all, it proves to us that you're a good fit for predictive, and then of course it proves to you that you're a good fit for predictive.
Cool, thanks.
Great, thank you. Yes, please.
Hi, this question could be for either of you, I guess. How long was your pilot? And is that, do you figure out how long the pilot is based on how long your sales cycles are?
For us, I think our pilot was more just determined by how quickly we could get the teams on board. I don't want to say it was more than 2 months. I don't know if you guys remember, but it was fairly short. I mean, we at Hootsuite, we like to move as quickly as possible. But again, I mean, building alignment is as much about distributing results and kind of having meetings where we can say this is going to work this way. This is when we want to get feedback from you. So we put together. I think we had a roughly 2-month pilot timeline, and I don't think it took longer than that. Yeah.
And to add some more color, marketers get this. I mean, you guys are innovative. You see all the great technologies out there. Marketers get this fairly quickly. Most of the time for organizations, a pilot is to get the sales teams on board. Yeah. Sales reps, we're skeptical. It's like, oh, you want me to try something new today? You had something last quarter. So what you might want to do from the pilot perspective is identify a part of the sales team and almost do like an A/B test and show what the impact of calling into the best leads are, for example, for one team versus the baseline. And then also from the marketing perspective, A/B testing to show how maybe predictive campaigns are more effective than the normal campaigns historically. But very quickly you'll see the results. If you have a long sales cycle, I'd say measure the results to hit intermediate stages. If it's a short sales cycle, then maybe go through the entire cycle to close one, and you can measure the results then. Thank you. Yes?
Hi. I guess before you guys got rich and famous for Hootsuite. Were you thinking about predictive analytics? And I guess another way to phrase that, what did you feel that you needed in place and a solid foundation before you went down the road of predictive analytics?
Well, to be honest with you, that wasn't at Hootsuite at the beginning. But really, I think one thing about Hootsuite is that there's this constant desire to understand our customers better. And as time went on, customers changing, we were growing rapidly, but we still felt like there was a huge blind spot. So really, like I said at the beginning, it was this desire to understand more about our customer. And then in understanding more about our customer, we realized, well, we're never, once the growth kind of side of the business said, well, that's great for marketing. Marketing kind of take all these insights and talk about messaging in the right way and kind of build go-to-market campaigns. But for growth, we're looking for the next customer, right? So how do we take that and we through market research, there's no way to really operationalize that. And so predictive was just the next obvious answer.
Yeah. And these days marketing is so dynamic, the industry is so dynamic.
Yeah.
Maybe 3, 5, 7 years ago, people would think about prerequisites before putting a new program in place. Now, your competitors are jumping ahead of you. You don't want to play catch up. So we even have Series B startups, utilizing predictive even before they have the rest of the structure in place. As long as you have your marketing automation with Marketo, as long as you have Salesforce automation, that's really what you need. And then predictive could actually help you, as an early stage company perhaps, jump in front of the competition. Thank you. Any other questions? Great. Well, thank you all so much for your time. Appreciate it.